Welcome to the Autism Education Series on transitions and supporting related behaviors. My name is Erica Mendez, and I am an EIBI program implementer. We will begin with a land acknowledgement. IWK is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people for over 13,000 years. As a health authority in Mi'kma'ki, Nova Scotia, focused on serving women, children, youth, families, and gender diverse people, we commit to working together with Indigenous communities and leaders to co create a path forward focused on reflection, understanding, awareness, reconciliation, and action that honors the knowledge, wisdom, and strengths of Indigenous peoples and recognizes the historic and present day harms and trauma experienced by Indigenous people. Canadians on the autism spectrum have diverse opinions on language and how they wish to be referenced. Many prefer identity first language, autistic, while others would rather use person first, person with autism. This is an ongoing discussion in the autistic community. To be respectful of everyone's unique preferences, references to autism are used interchangeably in this resource. So, what are transitions? Is stopping one activity to start another challenging for your child? What about moving from one location to another location? Anytime your child moves from one activity to another, this is a transition. There are lots of different types of transitions. Transitions happen throughout the day in different environments. When children are not prepared for transitions, it can be stressful for them. Kids might feel unsure of when transitions are going to happen or might not want to transition and may find them frustrating. This can lead to challenging behaviors and difficult transitions for families. If your child gets upset when you stop an activity or move from one activity to another, they might have a hard time with transitions. Transitions can be both big and small. Small transitions include things like moving between activities. For example, a transition could be moving from playing with toys to watching TV or routines. Examples of smaller daily transitions are going to be like going to bed, having a bath, going to school, moving from play to dinner time. Other small transitions can include community outings or changing something within a usual routine. Bigger transitions are bigger changes for you and your child. They may be things like starting a new school year, moving homes, or family vacations. As you can see, some transitions happen every day, while other transitions might only happen once in a while. Some transitions you know they are going to happen, while others you might not know. For example, if something unexpected happens. Lots of parents ask, why are transitions hard for my child? There are a few reasons why it might be hard. Your child is unique, and you will need to reflect on these possibilities to really know why it is hard for them. Some reasons include autistic children have a hard time because they prefer predictability, meaning that they like knowing what is happening in their day. Some children might not understand what is happening next. Some might find moving away from their favorite things is hard, and some may just find changing environments, like going from home to school or bath to bed, is difficult. The good news is that there are things you can do to make transitions easier. I'm going to tell you about Moyes, and on the next slide, there are questions for you to think about. Let's think about Moyes. Moyes is a 3-year-old autistic boy who lives at home with his family. He loves playing outside on his trampoline, singing songs, and loves to tap on things around his house. He loves cuddles from his family and is a very happy boy. But some things can cause Moyes to tantrum. In the morning, Moyes finds it hard to stop using his iPad and get ready for school. Leaving the house and getting in the car can be very challenging unless his parents bring his iPad with them. When Moyes comes home from school, He is really happy and takes off his backpack by himself so that he can go on the trampoline right away. Sometimes Moyes likes leaving his house and going on errands, and sometimes he tantrums. Sometimes he will leave his house but then won't get out of the car. This family can't predict when it will happen. His preschool teachers tell his parents that similar things happen for them throughout his school day. When he is playing with toys, Moyes' family notices that Moyes likes things to stay the same. So, what did we learn about Moyes? Let's start with transitions we noticed. Moyes transitions away from the iPad to get ready for school in the morning, leaving the house, getting in the car, getting out of the car, and leaving the house to go on errands. He also transitions to and from school and has different transitions in school that we know may be hard for him. When we think about some of these transitions, which ones do you think are the easiest and which are the hardest? The easiest transition for Moyes is when he leaves the car and gets to go on the trampoline after school. The harder transitions may depend on the day. However, it is likely leaving the car, especially without the iPad. Any other transitions you noticed that were easier or harder? So, where can we start? When thinking about teaching your child something new, that is, doing something different from what they are already doing, we know that we as adults and families also have to change. It is important to choose a transition that you feel is the right fit to start for you and your family. Here are a few things to consider. It might be helpful to think about starting small so that you and your child can feel more successful and be more likely to try. Start by picking one routine or transition. We know our child's behavior has to change, but so does ours. Making sure we are ready to make changes too. It may also be helpful to think about your family's goals and what is most important to you. Knowing this may be helpful in determining which strategies are going to be the most helpful for you and your child. Do you remember hearing about the ABCs? Clinicians talked about the ABCs in other presentations. We are going to use this framework to think about our child's transitions. When thinking about transitions, it is helpful to ask yourself what happens before we ask our child to transition, the antecedent. What your child does, the behavior, and what happens afterwards, the consequence. We are going to think about strategies we can do before we ask our child to transition, antecedent strategies, and strategies after they transition, consequences. Let's start with antecedent strategies, or strategies that you can do before your child has to transition. Motivation, predictability, and clear expectations, and prevention. Motivation describes why a person does something. This is true for adults and children. Think about your child and what they like and enjoy. What are they motivated to do? We want to think about whether there is a way to make the transition easier by using their motivation. Here are some examples. Use a transition object. What we mean by this is using something they love, something small that they can hold on to while they complete the transition. For example, we are going to the car. You can hold Paw Patrol Chase. Embed motivation into the transition. Okay, we have to go to the car. Let's fly like airplanes and get there super fast. Teach transition songs. Okay, time to go to the car. Simon says, open the door. When possible, offer choices. We call these forced choices because the child has to complete the transition, but we can offer a choice within. For example, we are going to the car. Do you want to hop like a bunny or slither like a snake? Finally, verbal contingencies, such as first then, we put the hard thing first, followed by the motivator. This has also been called Grandma's Rule. First Eat your peas, then you can play outside. In this example, first go to the car, then you can have a favorite treat. Predictability is how much your child knows or is able to predict what is going to happen in their day. Ask yourself, how much does your child know about the transition? How can you and your family increase predictability for them? How do we make our expectations clear to them? Some examples of things that families do to increase predictability are visual supports. This could include a picture schedule outlining the steps leading up to the transition or a social story about the transition. Timers. This could be a digital or visual timer. It can provide many countdown intervals or just a few. And warnings. It is helpful to give your child warnings, again, thinking about what may be helpful for your child. It could be a time based warning, 5 more minutes, or another cue. Example, when this show is over. Another antecedent strategy that is important to think about is clear expectations. Children excel when expectations are clear, straightforward, and consistent every day. This can be hard to do when behaviors occur. When you think about transitions that are hard for your child, is it clear to them what you are expecting? Here are some examples. Develop and stick to routines. Use clear and concise communication, such as using short sentences. And have you been consistent with what you expect them to do every day? Think about it from your child's perspective. Is there a better time to do the transition? Finally, we always like to think about whether there is a way to prevent the transition at all. This can be hard, especially if it is a transition like going to school. If we can't prevent it, it is helpful to think about how to reduce how many transitions we have. Example, if transitioning from a device is challenging, perhaps offer the device after the transition. Conse- Consequence strategies are the things we do after your child transitions. There are two main strategies we are going to highlight: positive reinforcement and specific positive feedback. One of the big things we think about is reinforcement. It is important to provide reinforcement when transitions go well. Remember, reinforcement following a behavior you want to see more of, for example, a successful transition, will increase that behavior in the future. Reinforcement should be immediate, so right after the successful transition, powerful, your child really wants it, and dependent, can give more or less of the reinforcer depending on the child's success. Every family has a unique way of letting their children know when they have done something good. For example, some families give praise, say good job, some families do snuggles, and some families do high fives or tickles. Think about what things you do to let your child know they have done something positive. For children with autism, it can be helpful to think about the reinforcement your family does, but also reinforcement that matches their interests and what they are motivated by. That goes back to the principle of powerful. Your child has to really want the reinforcer. Changing their behavior is hard, so they need to be very motivated to do the hard work. Let's apply these strategies to Moyes. Remember, we want to start with one routine and pick something that will be easier for everyone, family and child. For Moyes, this could be transitioning to the car to go to school. This is a transition that he does every day. In this routine, his parents said that when they use the iPad, he is more likely to get in the car for school. This may be a good place to start. Offer Moyes a choice of hopping or jumping to the car. Use a transition object, a favorite stuffy. Use a verbal contingency. First, then. First go to the car, Then you can have your device. With predictability, we can use a visual schedule for his morning routine, provide verbal warnings, and a countdown with a timer to help Moyes know what is coming next. Let's be clear. Establish clear morning routine, use clear and concise verbal language when supporting Moyes. It is not possible to prevent this transition as Moyes has to leave in the morning to go to school. When using positive reinforcement, Moyes can be offered a device following his transition to the car. Another preferred item may be used as well, such as a treat. When we provide specific positive feedback, we can provide Moyes with specific praise after he successfully completes the transition. So, our closing reflections are: what transitions are hard for you and your child? Think of the most doable one and start there. Is there something motivating in the transition? If not, what can you add to make it more enjoyable and easy for your child? Can the transition be avoided or delayed if your child is not motivated? How can you make the behavioral expectation more clear to your child? How can you celebrate when your child completes the behaviors related to the transition? And remember to reflect on why, if the transition was hard. Transitions can be hard for you and for your child. Do not give up and celebrate the small gains. Thank you.